Here are a couple of tips about survey questions to bear in mind. These are very important ones. Avoid long questions. Make your questions really short and simple and clear so participants can read it at a glance and answer it. Avoid two-in-one questions. Ask only one thing at a time. Avoid complex technical terms because your participants may not know what you're talking about. Use simple language or aim your survey at the people who are taking your survey and what they should know, and don't assume they know something. Avoid negatives and double negatives. Use positive statements. So instead of saying would you rather not use a non-medicated shampoo, ask would you rather use a medicated shampoo. uh, for example, consider prerequisite knowledge required. This is similar to technical terms. And then, when it comes to closed questions and the choices that you give, make sure that the choices are actually logical and that they're linked to the question itself. Also, provide a balanced range of answer options. Don't give more, for example, negative or positive options, so that participants results, the data that you collect is going to be biased numerically. You should have a full range of options. Don't require participants to remember too many things like acronyms. We talked about it with regard to your posters. You don't want to have all these acronyms that participants have to read and then remember when they're answering question like what is the SRA, no, what do you believe about SRA, or something like that. It's just too, you spell it out for them with each question, make it clear and easy to answer. Keep open questions to a minimum. These are tiring for participants, a little bit more work for you to analyze. Yes, you can have open questions. For example, you could give a range of options, and then maybe you could have one where participants fill in their own option if the ones available don't reply. That's kind of like an open question. You can ask a few open questions, but don't ask too many. Minimize yes no questions, with one exception that I will talk about, because yes and no just isn't enough. Are you satisfied with your job? Yes or no. That's just too reductive, too simplistic. Provide instructions such as to tick, circle, select more than one, tick all that apply, etc. Finally, now here's a tip that's really quite significant. Use forced choice if you're asking people to indicate, for example, out of a list of sports, which sport do they engage, which sport do they know how to play, for example, or what did they do for exercise on a monthly or weekly basis, for example, swimming, basketball, football. Instead of asking them to tick all that apply, force them to consider each one by one and select yes or no, because tick all that apply, usually people will try to get through that really quickly, and so they'll just tick a couple and it may not actually give you the result they were looking for. Finally, the very last tip is to avoid overlapping answer choices at all costs. Don't ask people to choose between age 18 to 20 or 20 to 25, because what is the person who is age 20 going to choose? It's very confusing. So these are just a couple of tips for the development of your surveys. We're keeping it short and simple, and if you want more information, I recommend going to the two readings that I linked last week. Bryman and Babby, both are social research methods books that are helpful.